Hi guys, what's up? Now I'm just right in the middle of off season, and in Korea the rainy season start. The off season, which starts from July and until end of the August, is quite interesting time period for me. During this time, it gives me many different kinds of sentiment. Before the off season, I usually work like machine, very busy, and basically I don't have any time to think about other matter except my job in my hand right that moment, and then physically very exhausted, very tired, right? And during the busy season, my mood is completely adapt into that stage, all the time busy and like completely focus on the job in my hand right that moment. And then later, when it hits to off season, right, which is from the very beginning of July, everything changed dramatically. Like it is all the time I encounter the off season, I feel it's very amazing, right? Because all the customer and all the business just vanish into the air dramatically. Like within like 1 week time, everything gets changed, and it happened every year. And I found it is very amazing. How come all that dramatic change can happen within a week? You have to shift your mode into the off season, and you have to take care of well about your sentiment into the like peace and quiet mood. And I think it is very important time that how you spend your off season, it really makes big difference in the very near future. In my case, looking back my business career, my business career actually divided into two stages. One is I did my own business in other country, and then the other stage of my business in Korea. Now looking back, what is the main difference between two stages of my business? Big difference, I believe, came from how I manage the off season. What I'm saying is, in my first stage of my own business, right? Actually, that time maybe in a way I was too young, too unexperienced, and then I had too much like high emotion, and I didn't know how to manage the slow season because my personality is some kind of type that always have to do something like and always have to move forward. So basically, I didn't know how to spend my own time in a meaningful and constructive way. So when the off season hit, I didn't really know how to spend the time, and I found it so boring and like even depressing. And then I had to do something, right? So I was very desperate to find something to keep me engaged in some events, right? I was very desperate to participate any kind of social activity, a lot of drinking and a lot of binges on what kind of event it is, right? I just couldn't afford myself to be like bored, to be isolated. So I all the time was so desperate for, let me say, some kind of fun or some kind of engagement, social engagement. Most of the case, those social activities and my engagement end up into the total like exhaustion. That kind of lifestyle is very addictive. It is very addictive, and you cannot hold yourself into, once you hit the certain level of the habit, right? You have to step back, but it didn't happen to me. I just went further and further like this, and then that kind of lifestyle and quite ignorant of managing the passing over the slow season eventually became very stubborn habit of bad lifestyle. And that kind of like mentality just get accumulated, and then once it hit certain level, you cannot get away with it. Although the busy season starts again, but you still live under the bad living habit, right? Which was accumulate during the off season, and gradually it deteriorate a lot of things: my business, my physical health, my mental health, everything, right? So once hit certain threshold, the point your bad lifestyle can hold, it just erupts. And once you realize you are in deep shit, there's nothing you can do about it. You are in too deep pitfall, and you cannot climb over out of that pitfall anymore. So all the situation get worse, and then eventually it leads you to total demise. That thing happened to me in my first business period. However, my second stage of business here in Korea. Actually, I have taken my off season, different way. Let's say completely opposite way of passing over, right? Compared to the first one. Actually, the business field is different. I do my first business scene was manufacturing, exporting, and trading things. But my second business field is quite opposite. It's mainly like physical related work and more like not office based work, but outdoor things. And everything has to be treated manually by myself, right? Physically. And but the thing, right? The main thing is same. It's all about business, and then whether is you will rely on your intelligence or your physical labor, whatever it is. Actually, the main thing is same, right? The purpose of the business is making money and sustaining your business as long as possible, profitable way, right? And then my second business, what I'm doing right now, actually it has more serious seasonality compared to the my previous business, right? And because it's outdoor, a lot of things pretty rely on weather condition. And then when the slow season hits, basically whole my business really go down to the bottom. And then like the dramatic change between peak season and then slow season comes in a very drastic way. Your sales really turn into zero over the night, right? And like from that moment, you have nothing in your hand to deal with. And it became completely nothing to work it. And you will face the enormous emotional trouble too, you know, because your mentality and sentiment, all the condition of yourself, your mode is not completely is not familiar with that kind of slow mode, right? Nothing happened and all your business just vanish into the air. That's the thing I came across. And then of course the first year, second year, it was really kind of it came to me as whole. I was completely at a loss. And although I expected some slow, I was expecting maybe my business might go a little slow, but I didn't expect, you know, everything vanish into the air all of a sudden, so dramatically over the night, right? And then it was really hard to chew at the time, right? And a lot of anxiety and like worries for the future. And I really like worry that if my business still could, you know, sustain in the next few months, something like that, right? Because all the things happen over the night. That was my feeling, right? But that time, I was very bewildered by the so sudden change, right? But I just wanted to keep myself. I just want to hold myself well, and I just starting to looking for something, I can do about my business, right? So I just spend more time to like do maintenance, clearing all the places, some damage maintenance things and facilities and other things, right? And then I spend my day to a lot of maintenance possible, against the possible damage or some sort of possible natural disaster things, right? And then what happened later was, this slow season is very interesting because all of a sudden you have nothing to do, but at the same time you have so much time for yourself to rest, and then you can rest yourself, you can relax yourself, right, and refresh yourself mentally and physically. It is really good time to give yourself something very important, you know, long term, because your body condition and your mentality were already completely exhausted during the busy season, right? So anyway, you need some rest. And this 2 to 3 months time of slow season for me is kind of time to refresh myself and recharge myself. That's for sure. But the first and second year, actually, I didn't really understand the nature of this business. So I was very worried and fearful about, that going slow, everything. Now I'm much more experienced and I'm pretty well adjust myself into this seasonality. And now let me say I know what to do, right, during this slow season, and I know what to prepare for the certain natural weather things, right? I mean, actually, what's the really interesting point of slow season, especially for my business, right? Actually, it's slow, but that doesn't mean there's nothing you do, because there are a lot of dangers and risk during this season, right? I mean, heavy rainfall, strong squall, and sometimes flood, and later that rainy season, you may encounter the typhoon, and after that, you have to deal with the heat, right? Hot season also come to you, and then all this kind of serious of the risk also exist. But when you get to slow season, you don't see that risk coming at to you easily, because everything looks so slow, nothing happen, and you only have the boredom. There's nothing you can do. So it's kind of very confusing period. Actually, it is. But the real good thing I did good was, like, after 1 year, 2 years experience, I completely understand the nature of the slow season, and then I do maintenance. I do prepare all the natural environment things, natural weather caused damage things, right? So I do prepare a lot of the way to prevent that troubles, right? And at the same time, I try to rest myself well, and also I figured out some way to overcome the boredom by reading books or by contemplating for the future business, right? And planning out for, next season things, right? In advance, and financially and mentally trying to be prepared. That's what I'm doing most of season, right? And trying to be alert and ready for any kind of sudden natural weather, inclement weather things. And and then really good thing what I have done for last 10 years, right? Different from my previous failures, right? I just more stick to myself. I'm not seeking for some kind of fun or social activity outside. And I just trying to stay on my own, contemplating and planning out for future business, right? And trying to get hold of my mentality as well. This way, I found out it was the key point things I have survived with this during this very rough time period of my business in Korea. And then doing YouTube, shooting this kind of video, also I believe would be a great help to improve the quality of my life. I don't need to completely isolate myself from outside world. I I can still communicate with people in the different part of the world. It is the one of the best way to expose yourself to the different part of people. Right? It doesn't have to be Korean. It's a good practice to improve my quality of my life without doing very direct contact with the people who can possibly like inflict on my privacy. If not YouTube, right? If not in English, I may found it's very difficult to communicate because I'm afraid of being too close, too direct for the communication with the people who are in a way related to my own business here in Korea. So I rather prefer communicating to the people who doesn't really directly related to my own business and my private life here in Korea. So without having that kind of worries doing YouTube, it's quite good way of communicating with the people outside of my own circle here in Korea. Anyway, thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one.